A few weeks ago, I spoke with a gentleman that connected with me through a friend. His name is Roderick. The dude was like, I met this guy and I felt that you two should connect. When I spoke to Roderick, I was like, dude knows his stuff. And I'm grateful that I had the introduction. He is doing some amazing things in sales enablement. He's worked with some of the largest companies in the world, and he's teaching principles that can help any organization improve and to enable their team to perform more effectively. Now, sales enablement is a word or a phrase that sometimes people don't necessarily understand. So I was thinking, what if we were able to bring you, this is me talking to him, on the podcast, and you tell us exactly what it is and what companies are getting wrong when it comes to sales enablement. And you know what he said to me? I would love to, Donald. And here we are today. Check it out. This episode is brought to you in part by Mailtag.io. It's a Chrome browser extension that notifies you when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. Go ahead and check out a 14-day trial with Mailtag. Simply go to Mailtag.io. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program, a course designed to help sellers elevate their sales game, find more ideal customers, build stronger value, and close more deals. To check out our upcoming semester or to go ahead and take a free trial, go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, as I mentioned in the teaser, we have Roderick Jefferson coming on the show, and he is the founder and CEO of a company called Roderick Jefferson and Associates, LLC. Now, the cool thing about Roderick is that he knows a thing or two about sales enablement. And as I mentioned, he's worked with a lot of major brands. He's down to earth. He's very systematic, and he understands that if a sales team and an organization has the proper processes and systems, things that's able to enable them, they're going to perform. And today he's going to break down and share with us some of the issues that companies get wrong with the sales enablement idea and how we can take those and fix them and make sure we are doing what we should to bring in more revenue. Check out our conversation. Welcome to the show, Roderick.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to this.
Oh, sucky. Now I'm looking forward to it too, man. And sales enablement, this is something that a lot of people get wrong. And a lot of people have different concepts and different ideas about it. So this is something you do often. And I'm excited to dig into the conversation and to learn more about you and how you're doing this. And what are some of the problems that people have when it comes towards sales enablement. But before we get to all that fun stuff, tell us a little bit more about you and your business and what you do, man.
Sounds good. We are actually a global sales enablement consulting practice focusing on end-to-end enablement. And what I mean by that is, unlike most traditional training companies, we start all the way back with talent acquisition. We work on onboarding, business acumen, the reinforcement and coaching piece, the all-important measurement piece, and finally, all the way out to succession planning. So we are truly a turnkey sales enablement partner. And I'm really glad to be able to talk about this topic of sales enablement and, more importantly, what folks are doing wrong and what they could be doing differently. A little bit about myself real quick. I actually started as a salesperson, started as a BDR way back when, and worked my way up to AE and finally to sales management and realized something really fundamental. I enjoyed the process of selling more than I did taking down big deals. So then I stepped into the world of sales training way back then. And since then, it's morphed into sales enablement. And I've been fortunate, an incredible journey from Siebel Systems, Network Appliance, eBay, HP, Oracle, Salesforce, and Marketo. And then finally decided after all of that 10-year experience, et cetera, and taking all the tools and templates and measurements and also the missteps that a lot of folks are afraid to talk about. Look, I trip and fall every day. So I took those and then joined with a couple of partners and we created Roderick Jefferson and Associates.
Love it, man. And congratulations on what you're doing. Congratulations on the success you're seeing with the business.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Love it. Well, let's define, before we get started, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. What exactly is sales enablement when you say that?
Another interesting question. I believe that if you ask 10 people, you'll get 12 answers. To be one of the founding members of the Sales Enablement Society. And for folks not aware of what that is, we essentially went out to do for the world of sales enablement what has been done by PMI in the project management space. That's defining parameters, coming up with nomenclatures, making sure we have consistency. So from that, the definition of what sales enablement is and what we really do is really quite simple. We break the complexity of sales into practical ideas through scalable and repeatable practices. Now, here's the interesting thing that separates us from training that leads to increased revenue. So essentially, we help to get sales teams into the right conversation the right way with the right tools, all leading towards one of two things: decrease time to ramp or increase productivity and revenue.
Love that. All right. So let's go on. When it comes towards company actually doing this, when it comes toward them getting their organization going and up and running, what are some of the common mistakes that they have? Maybe you can list out a few of them, then we could just, throughout the remainder of the conversation, just tackle each of them. But what are some of those common challenges people get wrong when it comes to sales enablement?
Well, first is the definition of what they want sales enablement to do and what the measurements of success are for sales enablement inside of their company. What I've realized by all of the companies I've worked with and also that we consult with, sales enablement is something different in each company. So it's about getting consistency and also parameters. That's one. The second is waiting too long to bring in sales enablement consultants like myself and or bring in resources. The third is thinking that what I just said before is an or situation. It's not a consultant or resource. It's actually a combination of the two. One can help you get the groundwork laid and get things established and then hand off to someone that takes it. And fourth and finally is not tying all of the activities, the outcomes, etc., to revenue generating metrics.
All right, let's tackle the first one there. So measurement, definition, so forth. You kind of hit up on the definition a little bit. Why do they get this part wrong when it comes to definition and measurement?
Well, I think because what I've found out from experience is they're not really sure what they need. They know what's not working, and they look at sales enablement kind of like IT, and no disrespect to IT. But we are not the fixers of broken things. We are not here to poke holes. We're also not sales scribes, and we're not here as sales support. We have to be a sales partner. The difference between training and enablement and where they get things wrong is they're looking for training. And I believe that you train animals and you enable people. So taking it from that perspective, enablement is something that's woven into the fabric of the company. It literally has to be one of the top 5 initiatives of the overall success of the company. And it has to have specific time-bound and measurable deliverables, metrics, and KPIs.
What are some of those things that we can measure, though, when it comes towards looking at tools like, looking at the small companies, like what should they measure in relations to their organization as far as sales enablement is concerned?
Well, from a measurement perspective, I think there are 2 different types of measurements we want to look at and focus on.
Sure.
One is, what does sales enablement influence? And the other is, what should sales enablement own? So from an influence perspective, at one time, we used to be able to come back talking about, butts and seats and how many head count and what's our NPS score. Those things just don't carry water anymore.
Why is that?
So now, what I really focus on are kind of a laundry list that goes as such. What's the completion percentage of certification or accreditations? What's the average deal size? Collateral use and frequency? How much new pipeline is being created? What's the number of closed deals, both quarterly and annually? What's the product mix if they have multiple products? What's the cross sale that's happening there? What's the quota attainment percentage quarter over quarter? What's the overall annual attainment of quota? What's the time to revenue? And then also, what's the win rate?
So you mentioned some of the old stuff that doesn't work. Why are they not working nowadays? Some of those old measurements.
Well, because they're not a definition of success and they're not anything that's going to help move the needle forward for sales.
Yeah.
And they are generally things that are going to make sales enablement look really, really good, but also put them in a position of being a sales servant or a sales scribe, thus showing no value.
Okay, fair enough. Well, any other thoughts that we should know about measurements that people get wrong?
Well, the other thing I'd say is don't try and measure downstream your BDRs, SDRs, the same way that you measure your sales folks, right? And when you're measuring the BDRs, you want to look at things like, accreditation percentage again, but everything from an activity perspective that's leading to SQOs, as I'm called, sales qualified opportunities, right? Both on a daily, a weekly, and a monthly goal perspective. But let's take this a bit higher. And the biggest problem that I see that companies do is they are not tying their goals, their sales process, their sales methodology to the ultimately important thing of where do they fit into their buyer's journey. They're trying to make the buyer fit into their processes, their methodologies, their sales stages, their CRM. Step back and reverse engineer it and find out what does your buyer journey look like and document that. And the next thing is, where do we fit in those multiple touch points in the buyer journey? Are we a volume velocity sale, so we happen quickly? Or are we a long-term enterprise level relationship sale that we have to touch them on an ongoing basis?
Yeah. Very interesting you say that is not just trying to put them within your mold, but giving them an opportunity to create everybody's going to be different. Everyone's mold is going to be a slightly different package. And if you were to try to just mold everybody according to the way that you want to sell, it ain't going to work. It's the way according to their buy. So I like that. It makes sense. Next one, I want to jump on to number 2, waiting too long to get it. Talk about that one for me. Why is that one a mistake?
Well, because enablement is one of those functional areas in a company that has to be in place before you need it. By the time you need it, it's already too late. So let me give an example. You are a hyper growth company. You're growing like crazy. You're hiring people. You're going to hire 30, 60 people over the next year. Mm-hmm. You're going to hire them. Then what? Do you have the content that's ready for them? Do you have the process around onboarding? Do you have the strategy around tools? Do you know what continuing education looks like? Do you understand how to connect the dots so that you have all the internal organizations working in an orchestrated manner? Because that's really what we do. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have that, you've got these people here and you have no plan. So what you've done is essentially plan to fail rather than making sure that you have a successful plan and making sure that you have this in an organized, orchestrated fashion that validates, one, the learning experience along the way, also validates the potential for earners, and most importantly, validates whether or not you have the correct ICE. Now, we all talk about ICP, right? That ideal customer or client profile. I want you to rethink that. Start thinking about the ideal employee profile of what it looks like today and in hypergrowth where your company is going, and start planning for that along with the sales enablement resource.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, Roderick and I are going to pick up where we left off and continue the conversation by sharing with you the rest of the principles about what we get wrong when it comes towards sales enablement in our companies. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. You meet this amazing prospect on LinkedIn. They're the right size firm, the right income, the right number of employees. They're right within your Goldilocks zone. They have a problem, and you can solve that problem with your software. You schedule an initial appointment. You send out an email to them and to a couple of their team members. You also send out some information about your firm, but you don't know if they're opening your emails or not. You don't know if they're clicking through and going to the web pages that you recommended. It's a Chrome browser extension that allows you to get notification when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. The coolest part is that you can schedule your emails for later. Mailtag.io has a free 14-day trial, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and test it out. And when you do fall in love with it, go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout and get half off your subscription for life. Shh, don't go telling nobody about that now. Half off your subscription for life just because you're listening to the TSE podcast. To find out more information, again, go to mailtag.io. But let's continue the story. The prospect then goes ahead and clicks on all of your links. They go back to your website. They're doing their initial research. They want to schedule the next meeting. You go through the process. You create a demonstration. I mean, an amazing demonstration. You gave it everything you had, your emotion, your heart, your feelings. You gave epic value. But still yet, when it's all said and done, they said,
Thank you so much, Donald. Unfortunately, we are going with another vendor. We appreciate all that you did. Thank you.
Devastated. I know that feeling. I've been there. You've been there. And it's horrible. But we can fix that. We fix that by helping you with TSE Certified Sales Training Program. we would love for you to check out our upcoming semester to learn how we can help you not only find the right customers, not only say the right things and help your clients get all the way to the demonstration, but actually what you should be doing to help them convert to come towards your product or your service. To find out more information, go to thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/C for certified, S for sales, T for training. We have a new semester coming up in April, and I would love to have you join us. Let's help you to close more deals. Hey, we're back. And as we pick up where we left off, I want you guys to listen to some of these principles, see how you can take it back to your sales management or your executive team and show them or help them to understand some of these mistakes and how you guys can fix them and to see great results. You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, ideal employee profile. I can tell you a lot of sales teams never, ever talk about it from that standpoint at all. How did you discover that one was so important?
Well, one, I was in sales. And secondly,
you know what those sellers go through.
I walked in those shoes and also had to hire folks. And secondly, from an enablement perspective, you start to get a feel. I can walk into a new hire class and say, this person's going to be a rock star. This person's going to be average. This person's not going to be here by the next year's kickoff. Well, instead of doing that after hire, what I started doing was going back and working with our HR resources around talent acquisition. I work with the sales leaders to say, what does a rock star look like? And what's it look like for where we're going as a company? Take that along with the job description to HR and say, this is what we're hiring towards. That way, this is what we'll enable towards. And finally, with the first line managers, that's what they'll manage towards. And now we start what I call the sales enablement supply chain.
Interesting. I love that, the idea of supply chain. I was talking to someone the other day and they're in supply chain. You just always think about supply chain, how they help make things run so efficient and effective. And again, just translating that verbiage into the world of selling as a sales rep. For me, it just makes me feel that I could perform more effectively. And I think that I just feel that sales, every company needs, well, back it up a little bit. Sometimes companies do well in sales by accident because maybe the prospect really need their product or their service. So they're just order takers. However, I feel that that's one of our detriment in this industry because sometimes we just say, okay, whatever, we're just going to do whatever. We don't measure it. We don't plan it. We don't structure it. We don't optimize. And just imagine if every organization that you've ever worked with before you came, well, after you work with them, I'm sure they started doing this, but imagine if they all just were on point and just really focused on that supply chain and followed everything to T. Imagine how awesome their numbers will be every year, right?
You know, it's interesting that people don't see that, right? That whole supply chain, they're looking at the end result of we want sales, we need net new customers, et cetera.
Yeah.
Enablement, what we do is we get their end goal results and we reverse engineer it. And that's the supply chain that we put in place that ensures that we hit the marker. And that also ensures that sales leaders don't start moving the goalposts, right? We say, this is what success looks like. We agree we're in the red zone. We're about to go in and score, and you move the goalpost. And
sales leaders don't do that.
You didn't do what I asked you to do. Oh, we did exactly what you asked. The problem is you asked and then you changed it. So that's where it has to be a partnership and a constant flow of communication between sales, ops, marketing, product marketing, HR, et cetera, to make sure that we're all on the same page. And as things do move around, if that happens, that's okay. Because at that point, what happens is we all agree that it's okay, and we take it and we rejigger where the goalpost sits, as opposed to one section changing, not telling anyone else, and then everybody looks bad. That's when people get thrown under buses, and no one wants it. Nobody wants that.
It hurts getting thrown under a bus, man. Come on.
It does, because that bus not only rolls over you, but generally it backs up as well.
Yes, multiple times. All right. Well, let's go down to number 3. Or is it the resource or the consultant? Let's talk about that one. Why did I get that one wrong?
Well, because most companies think it's an or. I don't want to pay for a consultant if I'm going to go hire someone. And I don't want to hire someone yet So I'll just go get a consultant so that they can kind of, connect the dots real quick for me and fill in the holes.
Yeah.
That's not. And I'll tell you why it's important to use both of those, because what one brings, the other lacks. So let's start with the consultancy piece. We always look at engagements as collaboration, as a thought partner. We have 60 plus years of sales experience and enablement experience, which means we bring tools, we bring templates so that companies don't have to recreate the wheel. But we do it in 4 stages. The first is we can help with infrastructure build and augmentation. So essentially expertise to guide you step by step to get your project done and then evaluate and establish success criteria. The next is working with an established sales enablement team. We can then bring our processes, programs, best practices, and enable that team to focus on building and deploying other things. So look at it as divide and conquer. You take 1, 3, 5, we take 2, 4, 6. The next is, and the piece that gets left out, is sales leadership coaching. Not a lot of enablement folks internally, especially junior folks, I'll say, really understand how to coach, how to define coaching, how to then put metrics around coaching. We've got a mix of industry best practices, tools, templates, etc., that essentially focus on pure coaching, not sales management. The next piece is we'll bring sales-focused metrics. And what I mean there is focus on the deployment of data-driven, revenue-focused activities that are validated all inside of your CRM tool. Here's an example. We work with one company and we were able to trim time to first close for their new hires from 88 to 54 days.
Wow.
Think about the productivity and also the revenue impact that had. We couldn't have done that just as a solo group. We needed to be able to work with the internal group to understand their baseline today and then bring our thought leadership, best practices, et cetera, to kind of pump that up. And then finally, why it's not an or, it's around strategic consultant. So it's our team supporting organizations around high-level decisions in an unbiased fashion. We are vendor neutral. So we can say, we've worked with XYZ companies in this given space. Here are their strengths and weaknesses and why we recommend them, right? We've got deep industry knowledge. And at the end of the day, it goes back to really delivering revenue-focused metrics. You can't do that one or other. It really takes that joint collaboration and that thought partnership and ultimately that sales enablement chain partnership again to pull that off.
Love that, man. All right, the final area, not tying it all together. Tell us why this has been a problem for a lot of businesses.
Well, it goes back to our initial first bullet, and that is, what do you want success to look like? You can't hit a target if you don't know where it sits. It's kind of like, shooting an arrow in the dark and hoping that you hit. We don't believe in hope. Matter of fact, our hashtag is hope is not a strategy. Folks hope that they've got the right product. They hope that they know the right target market. They hope that product marketing does their job. They hope that the customer buys. And then they hope that the customer upsells or rebuys. Let's take all of that out and let's put a clear, defined process in place that removes hope at every stage, because that process is focused on your buyer and the buyer's journey. And if you do that, then all of the other pieces that come behind that we help with, that internal in-house enablement helps with, now we are all singing from the same hymn. I call sales enablement the translators of dialects and languages. Got to be able to speak product marketing, HR, engineering, etc. Take that out to clients and prospects, bring that back in-house, and then retranslate that back into sales speak. That's the component that gets lost. Music is a beautiful thing as an orchestra when you have one person that is the orchestra master, or a group, if you will, internally, that's making sure you take all that noise and notes and turning it into a beautiful symphony. That is sales enablement.
Dude, awesome, man. I think you synced it up very well there with that last little piece. If there's one major piece of advice, though, you'd like folks listening to this, whether they're sales reps or sales leader, when it comes towards sales enablement from what we discussed today, what's that one major piece of advice?
Training ain't enablement. You enable people, you train animals. Enablement is an ongoing occurrence. It's not a single event.
Love it there, man. Succinct and simple. Well, if folks out there want to get in touch with you and to learn more about your capabilities and how you can help them with sales enablement, what's the best way for them to go about connecting with you?
So there's a number of ways. We're across all social media. If you want to find us, we're on LinkedIn at Roderick Jefferson and Associates. We're on Twitter at The Voice of Rod, also on Facebook at The Voice of Rod. Or if you've got direct questions, hit us at info@roderickjefferson.com. And finally, on our website at roderickjefferson.com.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the show notes. Roderick, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today, man. Super
I appreciate it. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, I told you Roderick knows what he's talking about. And I told you the guy came with some experience, with some knowledge, and with some tools that can help you. And I want you to connect with him as well. He's a good guy. So go back to the show notes, or you can simply swipe up on a cover art if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and see the notes there and the links back to Roderick, to his company, and to some of his social media. He shares a lot of great content, and I encourage you to glean from him some of the things that not only did he share today, but some of the things that he continues to share and put out through his company. All the information, again, is in the show notes to salesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1110. Again, to salesevangelist.com/the-word episode, the number 1110. Can't believe we're at 1,110 episodes. That's just amazing. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. And also, if you like what you're hearing, I want you guys to check out some of our sponsors. Support them so they can help us as well. Check out MailTag. They have a 14-day trial. And if you like the tool, use promo code Donald at checkout to get 50% off your subscription for life. Can't beat that. Also, check out my course. You can get the first 2 modules for free. Just simply go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/free course. I share this with you because I want to help. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to build stronger value. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Stay tuned for a scene from our next episode.
On a mobile phone, nobody can see what you're emailing them. They only see your subject line and that first line. So in that first line, don't talk about you. Talk about how you can help that person with a challenge in that first 3 seconds of that email, and try and make your subject line 3 to 5 words, because that is all your prospect's going to see. And if you want to get a high open rate, have a good subject line.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for checking out the episode today, for listening, and for actually subscribing. If you haven't done so already, I ask you to go ahead and hit subscribe. And if you do like the podcast, why don't you go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or rate us on whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. Also, why don't you share it with your friends and family, your colleagues, people who could benefit from listening to a sales podcast? I'm sure you know a couple people. Show them how they can subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited by our good friend, Mr. Jershon O'Bale. Our content writer and show note creator is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.